Good morning. We are here. It is Free for All Friday. We are coming to you from the HarperCollins Book Studio 16 studio here in Lower Manhattan, but we're on the Bookstr page today. So for all the people at Bookstr, hi, we're talking audiobooks. Yay. And we're here with Iris and Beth from our HarperAudio Books department. And before we really launch into a lot of amazing books we're going to talk to you about today, I want to just talk about the hottest trend in book publishing, which is really the books you don't need reading glasses for. So, Beth, let's talk about the statistics about how hot audiobooks are all over the world, but mostly in the U.S.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I mean, year over year, we're seeing double-digit growth in sales industry-wide, which is unprecedented. Mm-hmm. The format is just really taking off, and it's really exciting to be a part of it, and it's really exciting just to see that growth.
So just in terms of double digit, I know that the Audio Publishers Association is estimating that the books in 2017 were up more than nearly 23%, more than $2.5 billion with a B dollars in audiobook sales. Why, guys? Why, Iris, are people preferring to put down their reading glasses and put in their headphones?
I think a couple things. First of all, audiobooks it's become such, I mean, storytelling is wonderful anyway with books, but audiobooks just take it that extra step and it brings the story to life even more. And I think too, we're a commuter society. You know, you're either driving to work or you're taking the train or walking or whatever your situation is. And we are constantly either in our headphones or we have something playing. It's like this constant need for content. And I think that audiobooks have just become a part of that, the way podcasts or music has. It's just another medium.
Do you guys think that podcasting has helped sort of spur on the meteoric rise of audiobooks?
I think it has.
I think so too. Yeah.
I think there are a lot of factors, but I definitely think I think podcast listeners naturally want to listen to audiobooks as well.
Yeah, I think so.
So an amazing stat here. So just as our audience is growing, I'm Lisa Sharkey. I'm here with Iris McElroy and Beth Ives from HarperAudio. We're talking about falling, because tomorrow's the first day of fall, falling in love with audiobooks. And some interesting stats that I just could not get over. So the average audiobook listener read or listened to an average of 15 audiobooks, and 57% of listeners said that audiobooks will help you finish a book.
Yeah.
So I think part of it might just be the convenience of it, but also the fact that everyone's with their phone all the time and everyone wants their headphones in so they don't have to talk to the person next to them. Therefore, your audiobook is your best friend.
What we're also seeing is people actually are listening at home more and more. I mean, it used to be people listened in the car, and that was the majority of people. Now people listening in the home has actually surpassed that.
And that due to Google Play and
I think
Amazon
that has something
Echo.
to do with it.
Yeah. And you have so many wonderful narrators out there
Yeah.
who really take the book and they amplify. They take it to another level just with their acting and their characterizations and what have you. I think that makes it really special.
Well, Carrie Justice is weighing in. So, by the way, guys, let us know where you're watching from. Let us know if you like audiobooks. If you've never listened to an audiobook, we will give you some great suggestions today of how to get started. Carrie Justice says, I've never actually listened to an audiobook. Beth, what should she do? Which books? Let's just jump right in with some book suggestions here of what she should get started with.
Okay.
Maybe if Carrie, I don't know what kind of genre you like, but we're going to talk about Jilly McMillan right now, and we're going to play some clips for you guys so you can hear the power of the spoken word.
Yeah, so Jilly McMillan, we were so excited about this audiobook. Her last audiobook did extremely well, so we were, this being a follow-up, we were really excited. Mm-hmm. And Iris can speak to this more But this especially really lent itself to audio because it's actually in between each chapter is a fictionalized podcast.
Yeah, so it's got the podcast element to it, and we included music with it to really give the listener a sense that they're listening to a podcast. And it was really fun. It was really fun for me to do because I always love extras. I'm a total audiophile. But this one was super fun because it's from 3 different points of view. So you could see this mystery and the solution unfold from all 3 characters, and we had 3 different narrators in it as well. So it was very, very good.
So our audience is really growing. We're getting a lot of shares. Please let us know where you're watching from, what you're reading. Carrie Justice is reading Dark Places, and she wants to now read the Jilly McMillan, and we're going to be playing you guys some clips. So let's just jump right in, saying hi to Elizabeth Silver from Pittsburgh, and Jolie Wade says, I know you know, and she's going to start it soon. Vivian says she's a baby boomer. She loves to read, but her eyes are making it harder and harder to read a book. So there you go. Actually, the average reader of audiobooks is under 45 years old, listeners, because they're in the growing up with headphones on generation.
Yeah.
Well, let's just dive in and listen to a clip from I Know You Know.
So this is the first podcast episode.
Okay.
I'll play it for you.
It's Time to Tell. Episode 1. 3 deaths and an article. You are listening to It's Time to Tell, a Dishlicker podcast production. This podcast contains material that might not be suitable for younger listeners.
Ooh.
Your discretion is advised. 20 years ago, 2 boys were brutally murdered, their bodies abandoned on wasteland. What happened to them remains a mystery to this day. Award-winning filmmaker Cody Swift, haunted by the murder of his 2 best friends, now returns to the Bristol estate he grew up on to find out if, for the people involved, it's time to tell.
Wow. So
My
this
name
this
is Cody Swift.
This is amazing. We work really hard in our HarperAudio Books department to bring you not always just a straight-on read of the book, but interesting ways to produce these. And what's special about this one, Beth?
I mean, Iris
Sorry.
produced it. I mean, this is, I think, putting those special effects in and making it sound like a podcast, that was completely, she did that. So I'll let you explain.
Congrats.
Thank
It really
you.
sounds great.
Right.
It was a lot of fun to do, but yeah, just adding that extra element I think just made it that much more special. Because with audio you can do so much to create different worlds and situations, and it's actually fairly easy to do, so why don't we do it? So it was nice to just add that extra element.
I think she's being modest, personally.
And also, Iris, you used to work in TV.
I worked in audiobooks for a long time, and then I'm originally, my first profession, I guess, was an audio engineer. So I come from that world, and I worked in audiobooks, and then I did some television and post-production sound. So I'm a total sound freak.
You're a sound geek.
I'm a sound geek. Yes.
That's great. Scooter behind the camera here is also major sound geek. Yes, he's nodding. If you guys are sound geeks, please weigh in. Put up the hearts and love. Carrie wants to know, how long is an audiobook in general?
It totally varies. I would say on average ours are 10 to 12 hours.
Yeah.
But some are shorter
that's the
because we do a
average.
lot of self-help audiobooks
Yes.
that can be, we had a book this year, it's probably our biggest audiobook, probably, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. I don't want to curse on Bookstr's page, but that one really helped spur the audiobook listening trend. I think a lot of people got addicted to that book and then needed more.
Yeah. That's definitely, books like that are a sweet spot in audio. Like that prescriptive and counterintuitive. We're seeing really high sales from books like that.
Right.
And also there's a book called Un-F Yourself, which is also doing very well in audio. And The Woman in the Window, another
Yes.
really big one for us in audio this year.
Yes.
So if you guys are listening here and watching what we're talking about, we're going to move on to Lose Well. That's a comedian and cult hero, Chris Gedhart, and This is being described as a laugh out loud, kick in the pants self-help narrative for anyone who felt like they couldn't fit in or couldn't catch a break. Let's talk about Chris and about this audio.
Well, I also produced this one, and his comedy is very funny and slightly self-deprecating and very honest and real, and that's what this book is as well. And talking about podcasts before, he has a podcast called Beautiful Anonymous where he tweets his number out and people will call in and he just has a conversation with them for an hour or so, and it's always very interesting, and sometimes it's heartfelt and funny, and all these he just really gets to know people this way. And we actually have we kind of honored his podcast within the audiobook as well, where he ends up interviewing some of the people that he talks about in his book who made such an impact on his life and basically are the reason why he does comedy now. So it was really nice. It was just really cool to just get to know this person.
And it's a very different situation when you're producing a book, an audiobook, where the author is the reader, versus where you have a novel where the author would pretty much almost never be the reader. So let's take a listen to a bit from Lose Well by Chris Gethard.
The most underestimated source of power is losing. This seems counterintuitive, I know. When it comes to winning or losing, winning is always the goal, while losing is to be avoided at all costs. This stigmatizes losing and robs it of its power as a learning tool. We live in a culture where there appear to be two options, win or lose. Because of this, we often fall into the trap of pursuing a hidden, insidious third option. We don't chase the glory of the win. Instead, we set out to not lose. This is one of the most detrimental behaviors to achieving a desired goal. Not losing is not the same as winning. The goal isn't to avoid losing. The goal is learning how to lose well.
Wow,
So
I love that.
I mean, losing.
I am a parent of a daughter who is extremely good at losing. She always wants to win, but when she doesn't, I am so impressed by how she handles losing, and that's just incredible. We've got a lot of questions here. Ask anything to Iris and Beth because they are the experts here. Somebody says, what is the price for audiobooks? Are they comparable to paper books or ebooks?
I would say the price of an audiobook, they are priced by length. So, an audiobook that's 20 hours long is going to be more expensive than an audiobook that's 3 hours long. I would say they're more on par with what you'd pay for a hardcover.
But we also have a lot of audio daily deals across the different e-tailers. So there might be an Audible deal of the day on Amazon's audiobook department, or you can also take out audiobooks from libraries, can't you?
Yeah. I am personally a big fan of a couple of different things in the library. If your library has an account with Hoopla, not all libraries do, but it's a wonderful service. They have their own app where you can check out audiobooks, and it's completely free if
and
you
that's
have...
Hoopla, Hoopla?
Like hula hoop.
Oh, I love that. So guys, I see people are talking about that. Deanna says her library doesn't, or Dell's library doesn't have audiobooks that you can borrow, but go into your library and talk to your librarian and let them know about Hoopla. They might not know about it, and that's important because I'm sure they'd be excited to help you listen to audiobooks.
There's another one powered by Overdrive called Libby, which is also fantastic. I personally use it a lot.
Yeah, Libby. So Libby and Hoopla are two great resources. And I want to move on to one of my favorite books of my entire life, Ann Patchett's Bel Canto, which was just made into a movie. And so it's experiencing a bit of a resurgence. It's an extraordinary story. And Ann Patchett is a house author. She has written State of Wonder. She has written Bel Canto. She also has written This is the Story of a Happy Marriage. So she writes fiction and nonfiction. She came from journalism and became a novelist. We love her, and let's take a little listen to this very dramatic audiobook from Bel Canto.
This is performed by Anna Fields, and this recording came out when the book came out. It's one of our like classic, I think, best recordings, and it was an Audie finalist as well.
And HarperAudio wins the
We're
award.
still applauding, each on his or her feet, still in the fullest throes of hands slapping together, elbows up. Not one person had come anywhere close to tiring. The Italians and the French were yelling, "Brava, brava!" and the Japanese turned away from them. Would he have kissed her like that had the room been lit? Was his mind so full of her that in the very instant of darkness he reached for her, did he think so quickly? Or was it that they wanted her too, all of the men and women in the room, and so they imagined it collectively? They were so taken by the beauty of her voice that they wanted to cover her mouth with their mouth, drink in. Maybe
Wow.
music could be transferred.
Wow.
Devoured,
What a
owned.
reader. I love this book so much, but I've never listened to the audio of it, and I think you guys, if you want to start with a great novel written by one of the greatest novelists of our era, Anne Patchett, I would highly recommend Bel Canto. That's wonderful. Since we are experiencing fall tomorrow, and we're going to be heading into fall ball, as in baseball, we have Big Fella by Jane Levy, who is an award-winning author of ours, who has written books about Sandy Koufax and Derek Jeter, but her new book is all about the Babe.
And if you happen to be watching or going to the Yankees game tonight, she's throwing out the first pitch. So
Oh my God! You know what? I'm friends with her on Facebook, and I did actually see that. That is so exciting. So let's talk a little bit about this book. Jane Levy is really tremendously talented.
she is. So the book is wonderful. I mean, no one writes baseball better than she does. I think we can all agree on that. And for this, we were really lucky. She read the introduction. So she read the first 30 minutes of it. And the rest is done by a wonderful professional narrator. So we actually have an early clip of her reading of the intro that we can play.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
Okay.
Born on February 7th, 1894, which was untrue. Odd that she should have gotten the year wrong, arriving as he did in the middle of the February freeze of 95, when it seemed hell might just freeze over, as had the Baltimore Harbor. The bollocksed birth date wasn't the only incongruity I took away from our visit to the museum. There was something unsettling about the whole tableau, at odds with the well-worn tropes about Ruth's impoverished beginnings and gutter-sniped childhood on the Baltimore waterfront. It would take the better part of 20 years for me to put my finger on the precise nature of the disconnect. The myths and misconceptions about Babe Ruth begin at his birthplace. Only the dimensions of the familial still life and the outsized man Ruth became were incontrovertible. Everything else was conjecture. Katie Ruth told her son.
Wow. So, for those of you who are fans of baseball and fans of extraordinary journalism and beautifully crafted stories, highly recommend that. And I also want to just, I know that we're very passionate here at HarperCollins about Dear America by Jose Antonio Vargas. I don't know, Iris, did you work on this one?
I did not, unfortunately.
Well, he is probably the most famous undocumented immigrant in America, and he did not even know that he was an undocumented immigrant until he was 16 years old and went to get his driver's license.
It's amazing.
Did he read this audiobook himself?
Yeah. he did.
Wow. So tell us about what it's like, in the booth, Iris, when you're sort of helping produce one of these audiobooks. How many days, weeks do the authors have to sit in there?
It depends on how long the book is, of course. It could be anywhere from 3 days to a week. typically not longer than that. And we're in there from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and it's a lot of sitting and reading the book verbatim.
Do any of the narrators do like weird things? Like I've heard like green apples in the booth. Or
Yeah, there are different tricks to, when you're recording, you're usually a lot closer to the mic, but it can pick up just about it. The mic is so powerful and sensitive that it can pick up every little noise, from like what you ate for lunch to any stickiness in your mouth. So like things like a green apple will get rid of the stickiness, or holding a pillow over your stomach, or there are also just narrators who they need to create the space to make it comfortable for them, and whether that's like stacking any books or boxes to make sure the script is at total eye level, or blacking out the room, or whatever they need to do.
So let's listen in to a clip from Dear America, Notes of an Undocumented.
I come from a family of gamblers, and my future, it turned out, was their biggest gamble. Everything about the morning I left the Philippines was rushed, bordering on panic. I was barely awake when Mama snatched me from bed and hurried me into a cab. There was no time to brush my teeth, no time to shower. A few months prior to that morning, Mama had told me the plan. We were going to America. I would be going first, then she would follow in a few months, maybe a year at most. Until that drive to the airport, Mama and I were inseparable. She didn't work because I was her work. She made sure I was doing well at school. She cooked every meal, usually a fried egg with Spam for breakfast, and if I was good, her special spaghetti dish with chicken liver. On weekends, she dragged me to her card games and mahjong games. Our apartment was so tiny that we shared a bed. I was Mama's boy. It was still dark outside when I arrived at Ninoy Aquino International Airport. For reasons she wouldn't explain, Mama couldn't come inside the terminal. Outside, Mama introduced me to a man she said was my uncle. In my ragtag family of blood relatives and lifelong acquaintances, everyone is either an uncle or an aunt. After handing me a brown jacket with a Made in USA label in its collar, a Christmas gift from her parents in California, the grandparents I would soon be living with, Mama said matter-of-factly, "Baka malamig doon. It might be cold there." It was the last thing I remember her saying. I don't remember giving her a hug. I don't remember giving her a kiss. There was no time for any of that. What I do remember was the excitement of riding in an airplane for the first time.
Wow. So, it's super emotional. I know that a number of the authors whose books I acquire, a lot are memoir, they break down when they're reading their audiobook because they've worked so hard to tell their story and they've been typing it, but when they start actually saying it out loud, it brings up tremendous emotions. Have you ever experienced that when you're working with an author, Iris?
Yeah, I actually just did recently. We recorded Carla Hall's Soul Food, her cookbook, which was interesting experience. But
we just did a Facebook Live with her.
But she has a portion of the book where she's talking about walking over the bridge in Selma, and just her history and Selma's history, and she started tearing up in the booth. And it was I love moments like that because I think they're very honest and real, and I think they bring a lot to the audiobook, and you could hear all the love and emotion in the voice when something like that happens.
So if you're just joining us, we're with Iris and Beth from HarperAudio. We're here at Book Studio 16 at HarperCollins, and we're going to just do a little switch out and talk about vinyl. Nikki Giovanni, who is a poet and one of our beloved authors here, has done an audio edition of Love Poems, and I suppose every once in a while we bring back the vinyl because it's been a retro hit. Beth, talk to us about why we're doing some of these on vinyl.
Well, I actually read this morning, I was not looking for this information, but it just popped up in my Facebook feed, that vinyl is growing at the same rate that CDs are declining.
Wow, so there you go.
So it's, it's amazing. So vinyl is growing at the same rate that digital audiobooks are about. So it's so.
But it's a smaller, so yeah, so
Exactly.
about 27% growth in vinyl.
Yeah. So, and we just, feel like a lot of people who love audiobooks are also likely to be vinyl collectors. So for certain types of books like this one, we just really wanted to put out a vinyl edition. And this is on sale on September 28th. Our vinyl editions come out on Fridays rather than Tuesdays, kind of keeping in sync with how vinyls on the music side are released.
Can you guys come back and we'll get a wonderful record player and we'll play some of the vinyls
Sure.
the old-fashioned way? I just saw a video recently about, it was a bunch of little kids and they were given a record and a record player and asked if they knew what to do with it, and they so had no idea. It was hilarious.
So I want to show you, you can see the cover is really beautiful, but I also want to show you the actual record.
Yeah, absolutely.
That I think is just so pretty. It's just beautiful.
Oh, gosh.
It looks like a faded rose.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Guys, if you think this is stunning and you're a fan of Nikki Giovanni, and my best friend Heidi is a massive fan, so I'm going to get her this vinyl, and if she doesn't have a record player for Christmas, I'm going to get her a record player and this, and she will burst into tears.
I actually do have a short excerpt from it that I can
Oh,
play.
yay, please.
And I really wanted to include it because the opening music is just like wonderful jazz music. That
Oh, nice.
Oh,
is,
I love
I think so
poetry and
beautiful.
jazz. That's a perfect Friday combination.
Obviously, it sounds better on a record player.
It actually sounds a little bit like the beginning of Pippin.
Harper Audio presents Love Poems by Nikki Giovanni. This is the author.
She sounds great.
She's amazing. She's my favorite. Sorry.
Oh, you say that about all the authors.
One, I hope it's love. What it is. If it's a trail, we can hike it. If it has two wheels, we can bike it. If it's an allergy, we can sneeze it. If it's a pimple, we can squeeze it. If it's dew, it covers Dixie. If it's Tinkerbell, it's a pixie. If it's a breeze, it can blow us. If it's the sun, it can know us. If it's a song, we can sing it. If it flies, we can wing it. If it's soda pop, then it's drinkable. It might be X-rated, but that's unthinkable. If it's a boat, we can sail it. If it's a letter, we can mail it. If it's a star, we can let it shine. If it's a moon, it can make you mine. If it's grass, we can rake it. If it's free, why not take it? If it's a tide, it can ebb. If it's a spider, it can web. If it's chocolate, we can dip it. If it's a golf ball, we can chip it. If it's gum, we can chew it. I hope it's love, so we can do it.
Wow.
love
Okay,
that.
that made my day.
Yeah, she's amazing.
And I just listened to that all day long. Jeez, guys, that's just wonderful. Where was this recorded?
It was recorded in New York. Our executive producer, Caitlin Gehring, recorded it. It was actually recorded, we did a combined edition. So she had a new poetry collection that came out last fall. It was called A Good Cry. And so Love Poems is an older collection, so we had her record both of them last fall, and then we put them out as one audiobook. So that's already available. And then this is just Love Poems on one vinyl.
Wonderful. And you have another vinyl here, a little different.
Yeah, this one, so this is a great story behind this one. This is by Joe Hill. It's called Dark Carousel. We released this in the spring, and this is really unique because it's vinyl first, meaning that vinyl is literally the only place you can get this audio. So, but to my knowledge, that had never been done before. It's an original short story by him, and it's narrated by Nate Cordry, who also narrated Lock and Key, and was also in the pilot for that TV series. So this one, I just think the package is really beautiful.
Yeah, look at that. Growing up with vinyl, that was my favorite thing to do, is to sit in my room on my bed, open the vinyl, and read and memorize all the lyrics to my songs and look at all the pictures. And I think people miss those tactile sensations, and they want to experience the love of art that accompanies music. Let's take a look at the actual record itself.
You ready?
Do we still call them records?
I do.
Okay, just wondering.
Also, I did my nails last night just so I could do an unveiling.
Oh my, you are the Vanna.
Oh, that is so
gee.
cool.
Isn't that beautiful?
Oh, be still my heart.
I know, it's really cool.
Are you
That's
working with
awesome.
artisanal vinyl companies to produce these?
We work with a company called Wax that helps us, that actually makes the actual vinyl. They do that, and then a company called Pirate Press actually does the vinyl pressing.
Wow, Joe Hill himself must have been very involved in all of this.
He was. So Joe Hill is, I'm just gonna fangirl over him. He's one of my favorite authors here. He loves audiobooks, and when it came out, he did an unboxing video of the vinyl that you can still see on his Facebook page.
Wow.
And he played it on his home record player. So he's just a
We'll
big-
play that. We'll share that for you guys today on
Please do.
on the
Yeah.
Book Studio 16 page
Yeah.
because that's really cool. And Joe Hill writes short stories. He had a #1 bestseller last year. Was it called The Fireman?
Last year was Strange Weather.
Strange Weather was short stories. With
Right.
the big one was called Strange Weather, and then the year before,
Was, I believe, The Fireman.
yeah, and his stories are very scary. He is the offspring of Stephen King, and
Yes.
he's his doppelganger too. But obviously, he's his son. But still, he's
Right.
the nicest,
He's
friendliest, warmest guy with such an evil writing mind.
Yeah.
But that makes perfect sense because he lives in the woods, you know.
I haven't read this book, but I've heard a lot of people say that Heart-Shaped Box is his scariest book. So,
Ooh.
and it's a wonderful audiobook. So getting ready for Halloween, I think you all should have that queued
Oh,
up.
and you know what we'll do? We'll put that on our list. We'll do a Halloween Scary Books Facebook Live, and that's a really fun thing to get together. So I know we have a couple more. I'm looking here. What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam
one's over here.
Silvera.
Okay, so this is a young adult teen novel. This is out in October, and we're really excited for this. I mean, first of all, Becky Albertalli is amazing. She wrote Simon versus the Homo sapiens Agenda,
Wow.
which, was made
Big,
into a movie
yeah, and a
called
big
Love,
best-selling
Simon.
book.
And this is her next book that she co-wrote with Adam Silvera, who's also a very well-known YA author. So I know on the children's side, this is a book that they really love and are really putting a lot behind. So we kind of followed suit with that, and we wanted to do a really special audiobook for it. So it's got a really amazing cast that was just announced via Epic Reads on Wednesday.
Yeah, so if you guys are fans of YA and you don't know about Epic Reads, it's our YA and teen vertical that is wildly popular. It's also in brick and mortar, and it's just become such a big deal over the past 5 or 6 years. And What If It's Us? We're going to take a listen right now.
Yeah, so the two narrators are Noah Galvin, and you might know, he's very popular with a certain group of people who really like books like these. He's on Dear Evan Hansen, and then Froy Gutierrez, he's on One Day at a Time. So I'm going to play you an excerpt from Froy's reading, and he plays Ben, and it's alternating, the chapters alternate between the points of view.
Let's listen.
Ben. I'm back at the start. I had one job. Mail the breakup box. Not run out of the post office with the breakup box. In my defense, there was a lot going on. There was that cool and cute Arthur guy who clearly hasn't been burned by the universe before because he actually thought we were supposed to meet. On the day I was trying to mail Hudson's things back to him. I'm sure Arthur is changing his tune about the universe after that marching band broke us apart. I hop on the train and head back to Alphabet City to meet up with my best friend, Dylan. I live on Avenue B. Dylan lives on Avenue D. Our origin story comes down to our last names, Alejo and Boggs. He sat behind me in 3rd grade and was non-stop tapping my shoulder to borrow everything, like pencils and loose leaf. Same deal as we got older, when he'd need my 2 versions behind everyone else's iPhone to text his crush of the week after his own battery died. The only only time I ever quote unquote borrow something is when I need him to spot me some lunch money. And I say quote unquote because it's super rare that I can pay him back. And he doesn't care. Dylan's a good dude. He doesn't care that I like guys, and I don't care that he likes girls. Shout out to my main man, the alphabet, for this bromance. When I get off the train, I stop
so
at
wonderful.
several trash cans.
Are teens listening to a lot of audiobooks these days?
Yes, for sure.
So a really interesting statistic about audiobooks that I was just reading about this morning is the high percentage of people who are, and you know, you mentioned this at the beginning, but if you're just joining us, the enormous explosive growth of family listening, of people listening to books on their Amazon Echo or their Google Play or
Sure.
whatever device that you might have, and you can, rather than sitting around the TV and staring blindly into space, you could be cooking a family meal and listening to What If It's Us with your teenagers. And wouldn't that be a really lovely thought about how people could spend their time on the weekends instead of everybody looking down on social media? So once again, what is the release date of this book?
This, October 9th.
Okay, so it's coming up really, really soon.
You can pre-order it now. You can pre-order the print, the ebook, and the audiobook. Audiobooks, by the way, you can pre-order on Audible, Google, Libro FM, and Kobo.
And Libro FM works with the independent bookstores.
Yes.
And they're pretty amazing. So, you know, people think Audible's the only place you can get an audiobook. Not true. I mean, they're definitely the marketplace sort of giant, but there's so many other places, and we encourage people to always support their independent bookstore. So even if you didn't realize you can buy an audiobook this way, Libro FM is the way that you can do it through your indies. I want to look at Seduction. I see that below Big Fella. Wow. Sex, Lies, and Stardom in Howard Hughes' Hollywood. This sounds like fun.
It is a lot of fun. And this is also by Karina Longworth. She's also got a wonderful podcast called, what's it called?
Well, we'll get back
Do
to
you
that.
remember
You
when?
must-
You must remember when.
Remember
You
when.
must remember this. That's right,
Yeah.
because it's the song. Yes, I knew it was a long title.
Is it
Sorry,
like,
I
you
blanked.
must remember
Yeah,
that a
and
kiss is
yeah,
just a kiss?
yeah,
Yes.
and she's such a wonderful historian and about old Hollywood, and she will dig deep and talk about all the players during a certain era of Hollywood or a certain thing that happened, but then talk about all the small people too, everybody else involved. And she did that with this book as well, and it's very good, and she's narrating it, and she's wonderful, and yeah, I'm very excited for this one.
And you produced this, Iris.
I did, yeah.
So tell us where did you record this?
This
with her?
one recorded in LA, so I wasn't there, unfortunately.
So how does that work when you're producing an audiobook and you're not there? Are you on speakerphone?
I'll call in on speaker, yeah, or phone patch, or Skype in, or there are ways to connect in, yeah.
And so this is really the inner workings of the glamorous golden age of Hollywood. Dozens of actresses were pursued by Howard Hughes, and it's a revelation of how this multi-millionaire mogul was obsessed with sex and power. I mean, like so many.
Right.
But this is just an incredible writer with a very famous podcast. If you're interested in this, this I see it's the Uncorrected Proof. So the book is coming out November 13th.
Yes.
It's if you want to read another one or listen to another audiobook about sex, lies, and power in Hollywood, Tippy by Tippi Hedren is a book that I signed up. It's extraordinary. You could listen to that leading up to listening about Howard
And
Hughes.
she read that one too.
Yes, and she's got quite a voice, and she's a pint-sized powerhouse.
Yeah.
Amazing. So that one is really about Alfred Hitchcock's obsession with her and how she, basically slapped him around after he went after her, and he tried to ruin her life and ruin her career in Hollywood. So everything old is new again in the world. So I think this is very much a story about old Hollywood, but could very much be a story about, sadly, today.
Right. And that's what I love about her and her writing so much, is that she really does connect everything and gives you the through line of how everything has come to be. So
can we listen to a clip?
We actually, because it's November, don't have it in yet.
Right.
Oh,
She
okay,
just
no worries.
finished recording, so it's in the middle of post-production right now.
And have I missed anything? Because I know we were going to be wrapping up, but I don't want to forget any books that we might have brought to talk about.
One I do want to talk about, just to wrap up, this is a good one to finish on. Your Duck is My Duck. So it's a collection of stories by Deborah Eisenberg. And, I mean, first of all, I think the cover is just gorgeous, so I think everyone needs to see the cover. But the cast is amazing. Julianne Moore, who, we'll bring up again, actually read one of the stories. So I would like to play some of that.
Wow, definitely. Let's listen.
Okay. It's called Cross Off and Move On.
Cross off and move on. Adela, Bernice, and Charna, the youngest, all gone for a long time now, blurred into a flock sailing through memory, their long, thin legs streaming out beneath the fluffy domes of their mangy fur coats, their great beaky noses pointing the way. They come to mind not so often. They come to mind only as often as does my mother, whose rancor toward them, my father's sisters, imbued them with a certain luster, and has linked them to her permanently in the distant and shadowy arena of my childhood that now, given the obit in today's times of violinist Morris Sandler, provides most of the space all four of them still occupy on this planet. I was preparing to eat. I'd plunked an omelet onto a plate, sat down in front of it, folded the paper in such a way that I could maneuver my fork between my supper and my mouth and still read, and up fetched Cousin Maury's picture, staring at me. Of course, I didn't exactly recognize Maury, and if I hadn't glanced at the photo again and been snagged by the small headline, I might have gone on for years assuming that my only known remaining relative was out there somewhere.
Wow. So Julianne Moore, I mean, that's the beauty of what you guys do, is that you can pull in some of the greatest actors of our time, as she clearly is, and it's so wonderful to hear that voice. Mm-hmm. And is this a book that's already out?
This is on sale Tuesday.
Oh, yay. So you can get this audio book on Tuesday. Let's talk just for a moment quickly as we wrap up about your guys' podcast and about how people can listen on SoundCloud to the clips from HarperAudio.
Yeah, so I would really encourage you guys to go to HarperAudio.com, and there you can sign up for a podcast, which is called Harper Audio Presents. You can sign up for our newsletter, which goes out monthly, and it's great because we do a giveaway of all the titles featured in it every month. So I think, not only do you hear about our wonderful titles and get to listen to them, you have a chance to win them. And SoundCloud as well. We have a clip of every single audiobook that we publish on our SoundCloud page. It's the account is HarperAudio_US. But again, just go to HarperAudio.com and you'll see links to all of these great things.
And is there anything else that you guys want to tell us? Is there anything what are you currently producing in the studio, Iris?
Oh, in the studio currently? Sorry, my mind just blanked. I do have some fun books coming up. Soon I'll be working with Humble the Poet on his book called Unlearn, and it's another nonfiction kind of self-help, and it's basically about undoing all the bad habits emotionally that we tend to do and like telling ourselves stories about like, oh, you suck or whatever.
So like fixing the script in your head to undo. And
yeah.
I don't know who's producing a book that I've acquired that's going to be coming out in a couple of months, and Amy Morin, one of our authors, it's called 13 Things Mentally Strong Women Don't Do. Mm-hmm. And she's going to be reading that. She's an amazing reader with a great voice, and she's following up to her first hit, which is a mega bestseller, 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do. So that one, and just go on and listen to audiobooks, and whether you're in the car, on the train, on the bus, with your family, in your living room, in your kitchen, wherever, this is the new hot format, and we really appreciate you guys, Beth and Iris, for coming in and sharing all of this with us, and we welcome you back anytime.
Thank you.
All right, have a great weekend, people, and fall in love this fall.
Bye.